So we're going to come back for some more prizes, but right now I am thrilled to welcome our keynote presenters, and I will do my best. I'm going to read their bios. They are so accomplished, and I just can't wait to learn from them and hear what they have to share with us. So today we have Dr. Jamie Thomas and Maritez Apigo, who are going to speak to us and share with us sustainable and flexible teaching strategies for online success. So for over 2 decades, Maritez Apigo has had the honor of teaching English and ESL in community colleges, high schools, and middle schools in the Bay Area, California, and in Hawaii. She has been teaching online since earning her master's in English and from San Francisco State University in 2012, and she holds an online network of educators, those @ONE courses that you can win. She holds one of their certificates in online teaching and design and an @ONE advanced certificate in online teaching principles. Currently, she is the distance education coordinator, the open educational resources coordinator, and an online and hybrid English professor at Contra Costa College. As a leader in online education, she trains faculty in online pedagogy at the college, district, and state levels. She is an @ONE course facilitator of 4 professional development courses. So who knows, maybe some of you winners might have Maritez as a facilitator. Her passions for social justice, equity, innovation, and student success are illuminated in her work. When she's not teaching, you might discover her behind the turntables DJing, in the dance studio working on her dance technique, or at a soccer field cheering on her 2 young children. So welcome, Maritez. We are so thrilled to have you here. And I also want to introduce you to Dr. Jamie Thomas. She combines her background in linguistic anthropology and applied linguistics to creatively center marginalized voices and concerns in online pedagogy and professional development. Recently, Jamie was named by Intuit as one of 100 top Los Angeles area educators. She also received the 2022 Distance Education Excellence Award at Santa Monica College, where she has been an assistant professor of linguistics since 2019. Jamie enjoys connecting with faculty throughout California as an equity facilitator for the CVC @ONE, and she supports CCC OER's Open for Anti-Racism initiative as a project advisor and faculty coach. So you might be fortunate enough to get Jamie too as a facilitator. You win a course. Jamie is also a Mellon ACLS Community College Faculty Fellow and Principal Investigator for the project Closing Racial Equity Gaps in Online Teaching of Introductory Linguistics. Her research explores the racialized and embodied learning experiences of college students as connected to cultures of instruction and global popular culture. She has written and edited 2 books, including Zombies Speak Swahili, Race, Horror, and Sci-Fi, From Mexico to Tanzania and Hollywood. Jamie holds a PhD in Second Language Studies from Michigan State University and previously taught at Middlebury College and Swarthmore College. So these fine women are not busy at all. And with that, it is really my pleasure to pass it on over to Jamie and Maritez.
Thank you so much, Joy, for that wonderful welcome and introduction. It is such an honor and pleasure to be here with College of the Canyons. Awesome. Woohoo. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you. And we do have a couple of commonalities, Jamie and I. As Joy said, that we are both @ONE facilitators. So if you are a winner on the wheel of names, you may just see us again in one of those classes. And we are also both supporting the OFAR initiative, the Open for Anti-Racism initiative. So just a couple of tidbits of similarities between the two of us. Go ahead, Jamie.
Sure. And I have to say, it's been such a pleasure to get a chance to work with Marie-Thèse in putting together this presentation, especially for you. We're so excited to be spending time with College of the Canyons today. And we've learned a lot from each other through the At One network and also through the Open for Anti-Racism program, which is just having such a huge impact and providing so many more opportunities for community college faculty in the state to learn from each other. So thrilled to be here.
Yes, so if you're on Twitter, you can check us out there. Those are our handles.
Awesome. And, you know, we kind of wanted to open up this conversation with you by having us think about our classrooms, our on-ground spaces, our online spaces, and thinking about the feeling that we want to bring into those spaces as we warm up for the semester. The types of emotions, the types of collaboration. And here you're seeing a view of Santa Monica College, where I've got some students in my course thinking about together how to map symptoms of aphasia to the specific kinds of aphasia, right? But they're working together to do that. And since COVID, right, thinking about how do we take activities like this and bring them into online spaces, but then use what's special about the online space to make that activity exciting on its own. So here we go.
So we're structuring this keynote around 5 focus questions for sustainable and flexible teaching. And we're hoping that you'll be able to fill your online teaching toolbox with what we have to share with you today. So our first question is, what do you love about online teaching? We want to bring us all back to our passion that we have for online teaching. And we invite you to share in the chat what you love about online teaching. And while you're thinking and typing that, Jamie and I would also like to share what we love about online teaching. So for me, there's many things I love about online teaching, but I have to say that the main one is really the access that it affords students. Learning on campus is actually a privilege that not all students have. Many community college students who are working and caring for their families would not be able to get a college education if it weren't for online classes. The flexibility is something that they really need in order to go to college. And a recent Chloe 7 report shared that by a large majority of respondents predicted that by 2025, in just 3 years, most higher education learner experiences will include online learning.
Excellent. And, you know, just building upon why we love online learning. For me, it's about all of the affordances of the online space. So, for example, I can have these wonderful backgrounds that Joy and colleagues have prepared for us, right? These wonderful Zoom backgrounds. That's something that I can't do in the physical classroom. I can also kind of have on my construction vest here, and then I can even talk about getting to work and put on my hard hat, right? So there's so many different things that we can do with the online space and kind of have fun with it. We can bring in video, we can have this chat feature that we're using right now. And then we can even think about expanding accessibility through screen reader functions and other technologies that are still in development. So there's many, many exciting things about teaching online. And now we kind of want to look at some of the things that you've been sharing with us in the chat. Some really, really exciting reasons why teaching online is well worth our time, right? Naomi's sort of saying it provides students who can't spend time on campus. It gives them the opportunity to take part in that class. Victoria's telling us that reaching those shy students helping them find their voice, right? Everyone gets to speak online in a way that we can't necessarily do inside a classroom and in synchronous time. Fiorella is talking about teaching Spanish to a diverse group of students, right? We can even reach beyond our state sometimes, international students through these spaces. Flexibility, of course, reaching those students and having them feel comfortable, saving on that commute, saving the planet without taking that commute. There's so many reasons why it's high time that we think about online teaching as a thing unto itself. That's a really special space that allows us to bring student diversity to the forefront. So thank you for sharing with us in the chat.
And I'll just mention too that one other common theme I saw in the chat was that faculty were sharing how it actually makes them a better teacher. It makes them better at what they do just by teaching online, moving content online, improving from semester to semester. It just makes us better at honing our craft. So I thought that's another thing that to share about what we love so much about this online teaching.
Absolutely.
Okay, so our next question we have for you is, why is CARE so critical to online teaching? If you went to the online teaching conference in 2019, I don't know if anyone here did, this was pre-COVID, this was when we all met together in real life, then you heard Flower Darby there in her keynote presentation, where she shared, I don't care how much, this is from the student's perspective, I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. I love this quote so much because students need to know that you care about them and their success even before they can be ready to learn from you. That they need to know that there's some basic trust and relationship that's primary to the learning. So I think this is important for us to think about, because we can be very content oriented in our teaching. It's just natural, right? But also to really put that care piece at the forefront and letting students know that you want them to succeed. You're going to be there to support them throughout. And once they understand that and you've established that, they feel that they're ready to learn from you, all the content. I do have an article that I want to share with you. I wrote, it was published by the California Acceleration Project and at One. It's called Conveying Care Online. And check it out if you're interested in taking a deep dive on how to convey care to the students in this online environment. It has some examples for you and how all of that helps student success and retention. And today, Jamie and I are going to share some of those strategies with you here.
Absolutely.
When we operate from a place of being trauma-informed, then we have empathy for our students. We can be flexible with our students, especially when they are struggling. Our pedagogy has a focus on building relationships, and your class activities have both teacher to student and student to student, regular and substantive interaction. So those relationships are being built not just with you, the teacher, but also among their peers in the class. One thing I'd like to share with you is from Zaretta Hammond's book, Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain, one of my all-time favorite teacher books, where she explains this individualism, collectivism continuum. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that here. And I'm going to ask one of my co-pilots if you can drop the link in the chat. That'd be super awesome. So folks can get a closer look at what this is. So here, Zaretta Hammond they gave a number from a 100-point scale, a number for all these different countries on where they may lie on this continuum from individualism to collectivism. And as you can see, the United States has the highest score of 91. And that means that the US cultural archetype revolves around the dominant cultural messages of competition, the individual, self-reliance, that bootstraps mentality. And if you look below the United States, you'll see a lot of other European countries with very high scores as well. So this is also a reflection of hundreds of years of colonialism and imperialism. However, many other countries of the world have lower numbers of lower index numbers, which demonstrates their cultural beliefs, which are more around interdependence with one another, collective wisdom, group dynamics, cooperation and working together, and collaboration. So our educational system, of course, was created from this individualistic, competitive belief system. And students immigrating from other countries identifying with other cultures, such as Latin American or Asian, African countries that you see on the chart, they would not be set up for success in our educational system that's designed around individualism. Same goes for Indigenous students. They would naturally gravitate towards collaborating with their peers, working in groups, building community, and forming positive relationships with their teacher, with their peers. But in our country, this traditional classroom has not been set up this way. So this has me really reflecting on how to continue to not reinforce that dominant culture around individualism, and to question and think critically about why I make my pedagogical and curricular choices and how I can support student success through interdependence, group work, and collaboration.
And that's a beautiful point, because it all relates to how we communicate that welcome to our students, how we set the tone for building community in the course. And so we have this next question: how do you lay down the welcome mat in online classes? And so on this point, what we want to sort of convey is that there are a range of strategies for this, and we are experimenting with many of these. And chiefly among these that you have probably heard of and are using is the welcome email, right? And so we just want to share, I'm sharing an example here of welcome email I sent in spring. And I include a GIF image in there. So that's kind of the header of the email, just kind of conveying, hey, this is dynamic. I really am so glad that you're here. And putting positive images, a friendly tone, and essential dates and info in there, even highlighting those or changing the color, so that students are finding in that welcome email a very sort of straightforward explanation of how the course will work. So already they're finding, okay, whew, I am getting essential info. This class is feeling more accessible to me. Like, that's also welcome, in addition to saying the words welcome, right? So there's many ways to kind of convey this. And on the next slide, wanting to share just kind of how in that welcome email, we're including a link to our liquid syllabus, for example. And this is something that we explain in more detail in some of the @ONE courses, but it's a way of creating a course syllabus in a liquid or a digital format that's easily accessible through mobile devices, for example, that students use a lot now. Even in on-ground spaces. So in my own experience, I've used the liquid syllabus with my on-ground classes as well as my online classes. And it threw the on-ground students for a loop. They're like, wait, where's the PDF? Where's the paper? And then after a while, they were like, this is kind of cool. I'm not going to lose the syllabus. So we can make incremental changes, and students and give students a chance to kind of respond to it and let us know how they're feeling. But anytime I roll out something new, just like in this email, I try to provide a quick explanation of what that liquid syllabus is, right? And then a closing greeting that shows optimism and an interest in those students. I look forward to getting to know you. And, you know, it's really genuine, actually. So I think on this next one, this is showing an example of continuing that welcoming theme into now the Canvas course. So here is a view of the opening page of my Canvas course, where I'm directing my language to the students, and I'm also including my welcome video right there. And it's just another reminder that some students are accessing even your Canvas course on their mobile device. So it's a good idea, I think, to take a look at intermittently, you know, just take a look at the view of how your course looks on a mobile device. And one way to do that is to download the teacher app on your device, the Canvas teacher app, and open your course that way, or open the course and look at it through the Canvas student app. And that way you can just sort of see, hey, are my words lining up? Is it visible? Are my images coming through? And how do you navigate the course, right? Because students will ask you questions about how do I click to the next and things like that. All of this sort of helps you be a good explainer of the space. And on the next slide, showing how that idea of care and optimism and welcome is conveyed through further images. And so here I'm showing culturally responsive images that relate to my students and relate to some of the material that I'm covering. So I'm not just going to flash these images just the once. These images are going to come back in the course content. And that's how we continue weaving this care strategy throughout. And I think on the next one, yes. And so on a later page, just in these opening modules of the course, right, really being explicit about how much I'm happy to have you in my course, how much I've thought about you and your needs as I prepared this course, right? Being explicit about that, particularly in an online and an asynchronous space, works wonders, because that person is sitting there with that material on their own. And so it's almost like they're able to hear the words from your voice, right? And to also provide straightforward instructions on how to connect with the instructor through office hours is a really big source of welcome as well, because folks will be like, hey, I'm here, but then they want to know what's that next step. And if you make that easy, we're on to the next one, right? And I think on the next slide, we've got something here that goes more into the welcome video. So let me turn it over to Marie-Thèse.
This is the welcome video that my students get. It's linked in the welcome email that they receive a week before the class begins. And it's also on my Liquid syllabus. So students have multiple ways to access this, but this is one of the first things they're going to get when they hear from me. And I'll just play the beginning of it so you get a feel for what the students are getting here.
Hello students, this is Professor Apigo. I would like to send you a warm welcome to the class. I really look forward to getting to know you and teaching you this semester. To get to know me a little, check this out.
She needs to back it. She love it. I just wish that I could open up. Yeah. To the people, but it's so love. Her price things ain't on my home. Late September, but not for time. Ow, ow. Shoulda, when it's all stand. congregations one. They were never meant to share the two. She said that nobody could give us anything.
I really want you to be.
So at the very end, I just shared that I really want them to be successful, that I'm there for them, and then the ways to contact me. So that's my introduction video that they get right off the bat so that they learn about me and also get that sense of, I want you to be successful. I'm here for you. It's conveyed right in this first video. And my class has kind of this theme where it's an
Hello, students. This is Professor.
it's an adventure. So I'm kind of taking them through this adventure in the class. And so when on the first day that the class begins, then they watch this video, which is, continuing to build that feeling of being welcome to the class. I want you to be here. I want you to be successful. And then this is just a quick video I recorded on my phone, standing outside of the building where my office is. So I'll play this one for you now.
Hi, welcome aboard. Your English 1A adventure begins today. It's Professor Apigo, and I'm looking forward to teaching you over the next 16 weeks as you learn to become a better reader, writer, critical thinker, and researcher. Be sure to log into Canvas, where I have everything ready for you in the Week 1 module to become oriented and set up to be successful in this course. I can't wait to meet you and get to know you on Flipgrid 1. Bye for now.
So it doesn't have to be something that's super fancy and edited. It can just be something you record in one take on your phone, just like this. And so students will still get the same message of that you care. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm here to support you to be successful. There is going to be a breakout room on video later. So if you're interested in talking more about that, we can do that in the breakout room.
Hi.
So a couple of things I want to share with you are for us to reflect on the course policies that we have in our syllabus. And, a long time ago when I started teaching, I got some sample syllabi from, colleagues who kind of been using the same thing over and over for years. And so, as a new teacher, I thought, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do too. And these were some of the things that I noticed when I looked back at my syllabus and wanted to think critically and do an equity, an equitable kind of approach to my syllabus and my course policies. So my before policy for late work was no late work is accepted. No exceptions, all caps, 3 exclamation marks. And so when the new policy, the new policy is, I understand that life happens sometimes. So I offer a 24-hour grace period on all assignments. No questions asked. If you're unable to meet a deadline, contact me and let's work together to create a plan for your success. So it sounds a lot more supportive to the students, and actually sounds like I want them to be successful, and I'm going to support them so that they can be. Another one that was about missing assignments. So the before was failure to submit the first week's assignment will result in a student being immediately dropped from the course and replaced by a student on the wait list.
Marty, you were so tough.
So heartbreaking, right?
Yeah,
There's absolutely no chance for you to get back in. So instead, I turned it into a tip for success. So to count as your attendance during the first week and to avoid being dropped, be sure to log into the course and complete the assignments in the orientation module. I will check on you if you forget to participate. A lot more supportive, a lot more of a message that I want them to succeed. So in addition to thinking about the tone and the language of your syllabus and your policies, I also encourage you to create a getting to know you survey early on, so you can learn about your students, things that you probably wouldn't learn in that intro discussion, right? Like I actually am interested in knowing if my students are working, if English is their first language, and many other questions I want to know, I ask on that getting to know you survey. And then what I end up doing is in my Canvas gradebook, I enable the notes feature, and then I start putting in notes for each student about what I gained from that survey. So as these students aren't just line items in my gradebook, they're human beings, and the notes help me remember important things about each student. So I might notice that, okay, one student of mine has 2 young children and is working full-time, and I'll remember that through my notes. And when I'm going through, and if I happen to see they're missing an assignment or falling behind, that I'll remember that this is a working full-time student who is caring for 2 young children when I reach out to that student. Now back to you, Jamie.
Sure. And, getting to know your students, sometimes what can help us really get to know them is to share more about ourselves, right? Because that way we're extending the welcome mat and we're letting them know that it's not just about us extracting from them, that we're putting something into the course and into our community together. So welcome really doesn't have to be just in those first weeks of the class, right? You can think about the span of a 12-week or a 16-week course and think about, well, let's check in halfway through the course, right? When energy is starting to tank a little bit, everyone's getting tired. How do you re-energize and reorient everyone to the finish line and to why you're there, what you're learning, and what the passion is? And so in my course, I do that by checking in. I call it our rear view mirror. And I try to orient and share my story and connect it to our curriculum and career opportunities and things like that. And so on this next slide, I'm showing a little bit more of that page. And this comes about in week 8 of the course. And this allows students to get to know me a little bit more. So we've got that welcome video. We've got stuff that maybe I snuck into the content of the course early on, right? And now we're getting a chance to kind of let me share a little bit more about how I got into teaching linguistics, how I got to the school where I'm at, and what was my path along the way. So let's go to that next slide so I can just show you a little bit more, right? And so that you can see that it can really work well, I think, to include and explicitly talk about what educational inspirations led to your teaching career or led to the fields that you connect with. And let's go to the next one there. And I love thinking about it in the rear view mirror because that way you can kind of see everything that's brought you to this point, not only in your personal life, but also in this course. And talking about different opportunities, how I fell into different opportunities that taught me something, and also how taking a linguistics class, an interlinguistics class, really changed my life when I was a student. So just sharing that with students to let them know that, you're no superhero, but that an opportunity to take a class can really have a pivotal impact on you. So let's go to the next one. And so here I'm even, I'm using different images and graphics to talk about those pivotal experiences and how what I've learned in linguistics connects to that and has allowed me to connect with others and push me further into this work. And sometimes I find that students find this useful because they may be with us at the community college for only 2 years or so, but they will appreciate insight into things they could be looking out for, opportunities they can be looking out for as they move to that next level, if that's in the cards for them. Sometimes, even this last semester, I had a professor from UCLA taking my class for fun, right? So that's somebody who's not going to want to transfer and do things like that. But there's all kinds of reasons why folks come and join us at the community college. And this is just another way to keep that welcome mat extended. This is a long welcome mat, folks. And, honestly, we just want to keep that feeling as we keep going through this course. All right. And I think the next slide walks us into thinking about how do we extend that welcome mat, and that flexibility. And I'm going to use this little prop here, this leveler from the hardware store, right? Because we want to be flexible, but also be balanced, right? And this is tricky while we're still trying to be rigorous.
Yes, so that is our next question here is how can you offer flexibility while still being rigorous? Give yourself and give your students grace. Let's remember that we are teaching online to a population that is a population that needs flexibility, that they have busy lives. They have a lot of things going on in their lives. And that is why they chose to take online classes, because they really do need the flexibility. And we're also still in a pandemic. That's not gone. That's another reason for us to give ourselves and our students grace. There's economic turmoil that's happening right now. There's a lot of things going on to where we really need to allow and open up some space to give our students grace if they miss a deadline or miss an assignment. So let's think about our late work policy. When we're thinking about flexibility, I shared with you earlier that I give a 24-hour grace period, no questions asked. Students don't even need to contact me or give me a reason to use it. And so one of the ways you can think about this too is to make your deadline 2 days before you want to do your grading or you're leaving feedback for the students. So for example, if you want to do all of your grading on a Friday, you might make your due date Wednesday. And if you have a 24-hour grace period, a small number of students might submit it on Thursday. And then when you do your grading on Friday, just about everyone has already finished it. So that's one way to think about it. I know some other colleagues allow 48 hours, so you can think about what will work for you. Grading policy is another place where you can allow flexibility. So think about how you might be able to do that. I've seen different types of things where like dropping the lowest score, one free homework pass, different types of ways you can get creative around flexible grading policy. You can allow your students to resubmit, especially if an assignment is not passing. Give them another chance to make some corrections, learn some more information, review what they missed, and resubmit. It's another way to support their success and their learning.
Absolutely. And, thinking about how we can, through our policies, provide space for students who are onboarding, they're new to the college environment, they may be new to seeking accommodation in the environment. And I think we've all been in a situation where we're trying to connect with the service and things don't link up right away. So that student may be waiting for a note taker, or we need to wait for folks to be able to proctor an exam and things like that. Having a more flexible policy will enable you to be responsive to those differences in a positive and supportive way. Oh, and also thinking about new technologies, right? Folks trying to figure out how to use a screen reader, trying to figure out how all these things work. So having flexibility makes that much more possible, for sure.
Yes. And, I've heard other faculty tell me like, oh, I don't want to give my students a grace period because then they're all going to take advantage of me and turn in their work. Everyone's going to turn it in a day late. But honestly, I've been doing this for years now, my 24-hour grace period, and there's not more than a handful of students who take advantage of it. Most of the students actually really try to make that original due date. Even though they know in the back of their mind that there's a grace period, they really try to make your due date. But for the ones who really need it because something came up that day and they procrastinated, they really need that extra time to get it in. And I allow it because then it means that they've done the work. We can continue moving on in the class, and the student can keep learning. So just know that it's not going to be more than a handful. Your whole class is not going to take advantage of you. And I will also just share with you that the person who I was in college is not the person who I am today. We often hear it is our job to prepare the students for the real world, right? But like I said, I'm not the same person that I was when I was in college. When I was in college, I was a procrastination queen. If I had something that was due that day, I probably started it the night before and then just didn't sleep the whole night and did the assignment. I was the queen of procrastination. But now I am totally not like that. I am very organized. I'm on top of my stuff. I never wait till the last minute anymore. But it wasn't because of the teachers who, had strict deadlines and didn't take my late work. That's not actually what did it for me. So just remember that our role as instructors is really to teach the students the content. These extra kind of goals about like preparing them for the real worlds, those kind of things can be learned through life, right? Through living. So those are two things I want to share with you about that. Jamie?
Yeah, for sure. And there's some instructors among us, right, that bring a hammer to every situation and they want to nail it down, right? But, sometimes it really matters to like put that hammer down, okay? And, think more gracefully about how we can connect with our students, right? Because students who receive grace from us are more likely to be understanding when we need it too. There's times when we can't make it to the Zoom because our kid needs our attention, or we've got a situation at home, or our internet is out, right? We need understanding too. We need flexibility. And when we give, we can also kind of build that into our community, our online community, and it makes such a difference. Oh, but here's the big one. How do you keep from getting burnt out? All right. So this is a tough question though, because moving into online spaces, particularly with youth culture now, and I'm saying that because I'm like an old lady, okay? But, everyone is like on demand with the phones, with the mobile technology. And so students may message you at 11:30 p.m. or 1 a.m. And if they're in different time zones, you may get those messages at 3 a.m. So how do you keep from getting burnt out? How do you structure your time or structure your online space so that there's space for you to be you. All right. And so
Yes.
I'm already seeing from Karina, Professor Karina, in the chat, she's thinking about setting boundaries, saying no work after 7, right? Like there's all kinds of ways that we want to do this. So let's take a look at what we're thinking about.
Yes. And so this all comes, this is the big question about sustainability, right? On a personal level, we need to take care of ourselves and we need to exercise and take care of our bodies, right? That's on a personal level. We need to remember that we need to carve out time for that, right? And that's going to make you not burn out, not just in work, but in all kinds of things and do better in all aspects of your life. So let's remember that. I've, been teaching for almost 25 years now. I lost count. And I'm always looking for ways to keep it fresh. So I would be so bored, so burnt out if I just kept doing the same thing semester after semester in my classes. So I'm always looking for things that I can try out, ways I can keep it fresh, something I can tweak. What can I do better? I just experimented with ungrading and it transformed my teaching yet again. So this is another way to keep you engaged in your work and avoiding that burnout where you get excited about what you do and keep that that feeling.
Absolutely. And in this culture where there's a culture of being always on with the mobile technology and everything, figuring out what those boundaries are and how they look for you can be just really a source of relief to know that maybe because you've scheduled specific online time or email checking time for tomorrow between 11 and 1, then you can be like, okay, I can put it down now because I will get to it tomorrow. And then that allows your brain to rest. And then resting your brain allows you to bring more creativity to the online teaching space the next day. You're going to want to figure that out for yourself because I've been there where I am stacked with Canvas inbox messages, emails. Everybody wants something. And I'm just like, yo, no, right? And I just need to take a night and come back the next day. And then I can keep it fresh. Yeah. All right. And so I think on that next slide, we're thinking about how to build things into the way we've designed our courses now so that we can sustain some of those strategies and create an environment where students are more flexible on their end and able to work with us in these ways.
Yes. So what can we do in our classes to avoid burnout? So one thing is create content that you can recycle and reuse. So when you're recording your videos, for example, don't say any dates or days because now you'll have to make a new video every semester for that. So so try to, and creating videos is a time-consuming thing for a project for online teachers, right? You got to caption them, you got to download, upload. Like there's a whole workflow behind that. So let's reduce the workflow of by creating videos that we can recycle.
Absolutely. And I think when I first started in online teaching, I was thinking I would create a video, every semester for like my welcome or something like that. And then I realized, whoa, there's like so many videos I wanted to create. Like I actually don't have the physical capacity to do all of this every single semester. Renew. Okay. And then I started to see that folks like Marie-Thèse, for example, were creating videos and liquid syllabi that were not necessarily tailored to a specific date. And when I noticed that, it started to free me up because then I said, okay, well, this semester I can create this welcome video for this content and this one. And then that's all I can get to. Next semester, I can create a next one and the next one. But then all throughout that time, I'm building my sustainable library. And, along these lines, we want to think about adjusting your homework and lesson scope, because if you're working on adding videos to your content, maybe that's some time that you can't dedicate to grading an additional assignment. So at some point in the semester, you may want to check in with yourself, check in with your students and say, would you guys be okay if I took this assignment off? And see how they feel about it. See how you feel about it. You might feel pretty good about that. And, this is where college policies can help too, right? If you get to the finish line and the student is asking if they can have a W grade, but you know that you don't have the capacity necessarily to walk them through the W over the summer or in the next year, you can lean on a college policy that says, why or why not this is possible, because you're thinking about your capacity. And again, if you have issues with classroom management or online etiquette with students, that's where a college policy can be something helpful to you in that regard too. And here's a thought about focused feedback for students as well. I think Marie-Thèse has something.
Yes. So another way we can make online teaching more sustainable is to look at the feedback that we're giving our students and how even that can be something that's recycled and then tailored for each individual. So let's look at that more closely. So I don't know, thumbs up if you are familiar with the Canvas comment library. Okay. Yeah, I see a few thumbs. Yeah, a few. Okay. So the Canvas comment library is a huge time saver because you can create a whole entire library of different comments that you use in your classes. You can have as many as you want in there, and you can grab one from the library, and then it can be kind of a template is how I use them, a template for a certain assignment, like, things you want to, strengths you want to highlight about the assignment, and then maybe some areas of improvement. And then those areas are like blank and you fill them in for each individual student. So I have a template that's in my library, and then I start from the template and fill in for each individual student. So let me just go ahead and switch over real quick. So, because I want to share with you all this. So this is in one of my instances of Canvas here. This will show you, this is the comment library over here in the speed grader. And in this instance of Canvas, I just have two because this is not one I really use much. And so all of them will appear here, and you just grab the one that you want to use. And then, so now I have a template I'm working from, and I don't need to start from scratch for every individual student. I can fill in their student's name. I can fill in my comments about what they posted in this. It happens to be a discussion board. And then I've already kind of signed off on it. So you can use this library to save time when you are leaving feedback for students. And then there's one other thing I want to share with you before I turn it over to Jamie, who can talk to you more about the rubrics, is duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Canvas has a duplicate feature that I didn't know about at first. And once I discovered it, I was like, oh gosh, this is saving me hours and hours. You can duplicate a page, you can duplicate an entire module. So if you happen to have a module, let me just go ahead and take this one, for example. If you have a module that you really like the flow, like maybe you start with a nice overview page, you take your students through some content, maybe there's a discussion board and maybe an assignment or something, and then a summary page at the end, and you really like that flow, you can create a template module and then duplicate the whole thing. You can also duplicate individual pages too. So if you really like how this page is set up and you want to use that for others, you can duplicate that by clicking on these three dots. So that's another quick time saver I wanted to share with you. And now I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Sure. And I saw a question from Dr. Sonia in the chat about the comments, if there's any preloaded comments into Canvas feedback library. And it depends on your institution. I noticed that recently in new upgrades in the last couple semesters at Santa Monica, they've added capability for like emoji and a couple of stock comments in there. And another stock comment that I add into the library is usually something like, hey, it would be great. How are you doing? You're missing this assignment. Check in with me, right? So then I can click on that one really quick and let that student know, hey, I have seen that you might be missing something and I'm on top of it. So reach out so we can get you back on track, right? Something like that can be really, really effective. Mm-hmm. And
Yes.
so thinking about, oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing on that is if there's also a reassign feature in Canvas. So if you're allowing your students to resubmit, you can leave them a comment and then click the reassign button. It goes back on the student's to-do list.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. And that to-do list is what they see when they log into Canvas. It's like a summary of all the upcoming assignments and so forth. So that's a really, really good thing. And I like using the rubrics because it allows me, I think, to kind of flatten out some of my biases, because then I can kind of go back to the rubric and say, okay, well, did they complete that? No, yes. And that gives me kind of a benchmark to lean on. Even when I may like feel really good about what that student wrote, like they really hit a lot of things, but did they kind of touch on all of the other criteria? And how can I help them understand that if they try that in the next round of things, they can be a stronger participant, right? So I want to show you here on the left my first attempt at a rubric a couple years ago in Canvas. So I was trying it out and I was like, let me come up with some categories and point values that seem to communicate what I care about. And so I was figuring out that you could put in a point value and then like you put in the max point value, and then it will allow you to put in like incremental values that you can then use to sort of say, not there, almost there, you nailed it, right? And so I wasn't sure about how to do that. So I didn't have that yet. I just had the max and the zero. And I was like, oh boy, I really need to work on that. So with experience, you can add more descriptive criteria in and more supportive feedback. So let's go to the next one, because then I can show you my next iteration. So this one's a little bit more complicated, right? And it's like super tiny, I understand. So we'll share these slides with you afterwards so you can kind of look in more detail if that interests you. But what you're seeing is that I took a rubric that had just a max and a zero value, and I added incremental point values and feedback so that I can explain to the student without having to type it each time why they weren't as strong as they could have been in this area, or that they're doing really well and I want to encourage them on that. And, you know, I got a little bit more sophisticated too with how I was thinking about how I wanted to encourage personalized learning and engagement and also building online community. So with my discussions, I was thinking, you know what, I want them to, and this kind of gets at some of what Maritez was talking about with strategy. So I want them to be able to feel good about what they themselves post in the discussion, but I don't want them to be able to get a total A if they didn't reply back and communicate with other people, right? Because that interaction piece is so important. So that's how I've kind of structured my rubric there. And I just encourage you to think about what those rubric categories might be for your class and the skills that you're teaching. Okay.
We have a slide here with links to resources for you. So we will be sharing these slides with you all. And if you wanted to go back and check out anything we mentioned earlier, this is one slide that kind of has all of those links in one place. There is a link here to this Canvas comment library. I wonder if I could do this. for Clover. Let me just see if that works. Yeah, there you go. So Clover had asked, is there a way to edit and organize your comment library in Canvas? And yes, there is. So I just put a link to the community guide on how you can kind of, delete old comments and work with that.
Absolutely. And, just one last thought about rubrics. I just added in the chat that it can be a little bit trickier using them once you've already added them to an assignment that's live. And so students are already adding in because that rubric has then been assigned to that assignment. We can talk more about rubrics though in the breakout. And here, as we close, we just want to make this point that we feel that care is critical to online teaching. So we're a little bit cynical here with this image, right? If you've seen this film on Netflix, I care a lot, right? Does she really care? No, not this woman, but we do. And we just want to sort of encourage you to think about and consider how you can bring more care you're doing. And that's care for your students, but that's also care for you too.
Absolutely. Yes, you can be caring, strategic, and flexible in your sustainable online teaching. So just take it one block at a time. If you have any, if you would like to reach out to us after this is over, this is our contact information. And you can also see our Twitter handles there. And we'd like to hear from you if you have any questions. We're open to addressing those.